We spent a lot of time, and I believe it was our duty to ask the issues that Americans care about. You know, the economy. Are we better off than we were 4 years ago? Immigration. What are you going to do about the border? Why did you wait so long before you acted on the border? Those types of questions. Reproductive rights. Afghanistan. Do you bear any responsibility? Peaceful transfer of power with the next election coming. You know, these are all really important issues. The issues of our time, really. And I always say as a moderator, you know, what the candidates decide to do with that time, you can ask the questions, but they'll answer with whatever they choose to answer with.
That's right.
And you have to be ready for whatever might come your way, even the most unexpected of moments. As you all know, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I will say this. All of the noise that you hear afterward about, you know, which candidate won the debate, did the moderators win or lose, that's just noise. Yeah. You all know that. The most important thing to remember is that you all have the power. Everybody at home has the power.
That was so freaking cringe, especially when you realize that guy, the guy you just heard, actively attempted to manipulate public opinion and interfere in the democratic integrity of an election. Well, I don't know what they expected, but ABC News, after hosting that disastrous debate debacle where the entire world saw the liberal media in action, is seeing their ratings crash. I wonder why. We're going to take a look at the latest ratings drop to hit ABC News, and we're going to see why it's just the beginning, the literal beginning of the end for the liberal legacy media. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. You've got the control, you've got the power, so make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. And by the way, speaking of having the power, we did it. We hit #1. My brand new book, Fight: How Trump and the MAGA Movement Are Changing the World, just pre-released 24 hours ago, has hit the #1 best new release in comparative politics. And you made that happen. Gang, I cannot even begin to thank you enough. If you haven't already done so, click on that link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen and go pre-order your own copy right now. Let's together take over Amazon. Let's do this, gang. This is just the beginning. Imagine this. We all rally together right now, and a book about Trump becomes the #1 bestseller on Amazon. Gang, let's stick it to the globalists and go straight to #1, past all the woke crazies and DEI lunatics, with a book about Trump and us, the MAGA movement, and the rising of a new conservative age. Go click on that link below right now or scan the QR code on the screen and pre-order your copy today. Well, things are clearly not going well for ABC News after their ambush of President Trump last week in that embarrassing debate debacle. And Trump still beat the crap out of all three of them. We know that because while his polls continue to hold strong and even gain and rise, the ratings for ABC's World News Tonight have fallen by over 12% since the September 10th ambush hosted by ABC News hosts David Muir and Lindsay Davis. Following that debacle, ABC's World News Tonight, which is hosted by Muir, dropped by an average of 1 million viewers, from 7.6 million to now just 6.7 million. It was a 12% ratings hit, which frankly, as we'll see, is really just the beginning. Now, you saw Muir there at the beginning doing whatever he possibly could to save face from what was an obvious embarrassment for the so-called news network. What he said there at the beginning was just so patently pathetic and petty. I mean, he's basically begging what's left of his Democrat audience to dismiss the tsunami of legitimate criticism that he got. I mean, even from his own legacy media ilk. And he's basically telling them all, you know, pay no attention to all the criticism that's coming my way. It's all noise. It's all noise. Sure, it was the single most obviously unfair debate moderation in the history of presidential politics. Sure, everyone saw that, including you, but just ignore it all. Just pretend it never happened. Go back and rethink your life, right? Just clap like the seals that you are. Just like you're going to vote for a candidate that did not get a single vote in a Democrat primary. Not one. Just do what you do best, and that's do what you're told by we, the elite. I think David Muir has officially surpassed Don Lemon as the single most self-embarrassing personality on television today. As to the substance of what he just said there, that they were asking the questions that were the highest importance for the American people. I mean, that's just gaslighting at its most desperate. Remember, even freaking Meghan McCain called them out that night. She called the questions that these so-called moderators were asking as, quote, elite Manhattan debate questions. The questions that Muir and Davis were asking were questions you'd hear from cosmopolitan socialite gatherings. They had literally nothing to do with real ordinary Americans economically suffering and who can't pay the groceries. I think she nailed it. It was actually one of the first reactions I had to the debate questions. Nobody in rural America cares a whit about 90% of what you're asking. All the gotcha questions, all the questions about J6, all the questions about Charlottesville, all the questions about the 2020 election, all the questions about Trump's character. They don't give a rip about that. I mean, seriously, the peaceful transition of power? Are you freaking serious? Where do you see that among, say, the top 5 concerns that voters have in this election? Every single survey consistently finds that voters care about what are you going to do about the economy? What are you going to do about inflation? What are you going to do about jobs? What are you going to do about the southern border and immigration? And it was only Trump that was talking about those things. I would argue that this is precisely why Kamala got no real bump from that debate. Zippo, despite the fawning legacy media doing everything they can, fabricate a bump and just pushing these ridiculous response bias puff polls. But like we talked about in our first video today that just came out in terms of real-time data, if anything, Kamala is losing ground. The Democrats have never been so weak against Trump as they are right now, especially in the early voting stats that are coming in. You'll definitely want to check out that video. It will make your day. It gets you very pumped up and excited about what's actually really happening right now in the voting. And even the illusion that this pompous windbag gave there regarding Trump's reference to the Haitian migrants eating the pets of the residents of Springfield, Ohio, that motif alone has expertly revealed the massive gap that exists between the aloof elites of the cosmopolitan class like David Muir and ordinary rural Americans. The elites like Muir are more offended and outraged over the violation of politically correct norms, over Trump's supposedly engaging in racist and anti-immigrant and xenophobic language than they are about the social, cultural, and economic upheavals that come when you send 20,000 migrants into a town of 60,000, like Springfield. And of course, Kamala Harris did that. That's why they're doing everything they can to mock and ridicule Trump on this. Kamala Harris forced these migrants on the residents of Springfield. And now they're experiencing social, cultural, and economic upheaval that is totally and completely dismissed, ridiculed by the cosmopolitan class who are too busy denouncing the transgressions of their woke, politically correct norms and reminding their seal-clapping fellow Democrats that they have the power. Well, unfortunately for ABC, they're being reminded of who does, in fact, have the real power, and that's their audience. And 12% of them look like they permanently turned David Muir off. Unfortunately for these guys, this really is just the beginning of the end of the legacy media. We talk about this often on this channel, but it bears repeating. The legacy media is being completely bypassed by what's called the network society, where populations now have instant access to digital information by virtue of their hyperconnectivity to the internet. And that instant access to digital information bypasses the legacy media's dissemination of information. So that's why the legacy media is constantly playing catch up with us. So, for example, after the ABC News moderators dismissed and mocked and ridiculed Trump's claims about pets being abused and eaten in Springfield by the migrants, it didn't take long before this video surfaced. This is the city manager of Springfield, Ohio, back at a town hall meeting in March.
Laws and culture is 180 degrees different of what they're used to. And one of the things that I heard that bothered me very much, I've actually had quite a few people contact me here lately, is some pretty horrid things occurring to domesticated animals in the neighborhood. We've had some stuff in the park that, again, they're being taken advantage of for reasons other than, and if you shake your head, Brian.
No. I asked me if there was proof. I just don't have proof of it. We've heard the same thing.
People that have confided in me have asked me for anonymity. I can't give their names up.
I mean, we haven't seen the proof that you're telling me, and I've heard about it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard it yourself. I mean, I don't even know if I need to add one thing to that. Even the city, one of the members of the city commission didn't want to hear about it. They're like, hey, what's your evidence? What's your evidence? But that city manager just testified, dude, my evidence is I've got numerous reports of residents reporting pretty horrific stuff happening to pets. Domesticated animals, as he put it. But this is just a perfect example of how our collective hyperconnectivity is able to bypass the legacy media's monopoly over information dissemination. And then here's the bullseye. This is the kill shot, as it were. The coup de grace, I should say it in French. It's more sanitized. The coup de grace for the legacy media. Because we have instant access to information like this that is able to bypass the legacy media, we end up fact-checking them. That's the irony. That's what ABC News Tonight doesn't understand. We are now the fact-checkers of the legacy media. And to really drive this home, to be honest, it doesn't even matter if the fact-checking is that good or if the fact-checking status that we now have is right or not, whether it should be or shouldn't be. It's all irrelevant. It's descriptive. It's not prescriptive. The very perception, the growing perception that we are indeed now in the position of fact-checking the media is enough to completely blow apart the legacy media's business model, which historically depends on two things. It depends on their own unique capacity to mediate information, and it depends on the reliability of that information mediated. It requires their unique capacity to mediate information and the reliability of that information mediated. And with our ability to bypass them and access information immediately ourselves without the need for a media, and our ability to fact check them where we find that they're often wrong, their business model blows up. The legacy media is dead. What happened in last week's debate simply proves it.